My name is Tyrin Moorer. I'm the president of the Alabama State University chapter of the NAACP, also the Alabama Youth and College Division State Political Action Chair, second vice president. Pleasure to be here with you today.
I love that. I'm so excited to be here with you today. I don't have all those amazing accolades. I always say I'm just a little girl from the south side of Montgomery. I attended Alabama State University. I've been an organizer. Organizer is in me, deep down in me, just because I'm a Montgomeryan. And now I serve as the voting rights coordinator for the ACLU of Alabama, where I organize our statewide outreach. And so I'm very excited to be here today, excited to talk to you about voting and all the things.
All the things. So I heard you say that you're a girl from the south side of Montgomery. So talk to me a little bit about your upbringing and how that got you to Alabama State University.
Yeah, so again, south side, if you're from Montgomery, you know south side, Woodley Park, Spring Valley. And I learned to ride my bike in Ellsmead. So that's how I quantify where I'm from. And so growing up, my mom was in the Navy. She had me really young. She got pregnant with me at 14, had me at 15, left and went to the Navy right out of high school. My grandmother was also in the military, and she served as a nurse in the Army and in the Navy for several years. And so rightfully so, I felt like it was the rite of passage for me to join the Navy post-high school. So I'm also a veteran, United States Navy sailor, third generation. So.
Well, thank you for your service.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about your upbringing.
Well, I am originally from Pensacola, Florida, born to one Tyrin Moorer, former early childhood educator, and also spent a lot of time around my grandmother, Grace Snowden. And my journey really started in elementary school. I went to a school called Jacqueline Harris Preparatory Academy, School of Excellence. And it was a very unique experience because as young children, we weren't shielded from the world. We had something called chapel every day where our director would come in with the newspaper and tell us what was going on in the world. We had more Black history programs than math. We knew who we were at a young age, so that really fueled me to my journey, and that gave me the self-pride I needed to know that I wanted to attend a historically Black college or university, and that led me to Alabama State.
Yeah, I love that. I want to hear more about what made you choose Alabama State. For me, it was definitely about legacy. I remember making a decision. My best friend and I, who we've been best friends since we were 12, we had both decided that when I got home from the Navy, when I got home from boot camp, I was going to go to Troy. We were both going to go to Troy. Our parents were going to get us a house, and we were going to live off campus together. And at the time, my father was working on campus, and I remember going into Dr. Gwen Boyd's office, who was the then president of the university. And I remember going into her office and meeting her for the first time, and that being the moment where I was like, this is the university I'm supposed to be at. This is where I'm supposed to go to school. And I don't know that I had ever been to an institution. I had toured universities all across the state, all across the country, trying to decide where I was going to go. And I don't think I had ever been to an institution where you meet the president, you meet the senior leadership of this university, and you feel like it's home. Like you feel like they got you. Like, I'm gonna come here, I'm gonna attend school here, and I'm gonna be good, right?
Right.
Especially when you're embarking on something new. You've never been to university before, never done college before in this way. At HBCU, you're alone for the first time by yourself. And so, yeah, I'm interested to know what got you to the university and what helped you make the decision that Bama State was the place to go.
Alabama State was never on the list.
Oh, not too much on my HBCU, okay?
It was not on the list because I didn't grow up knowing Alabama State. I'm from Florida, so it was always, you're going to go to FAMU.
Yeah.
And I made the decision as a senior in high school that I did not want to go to FAMU. We call it the 13th grade because you know everybody. I wanted to go somewhere and make my own experiences. So I looked at my college acceptances. I wanted to go to a historically Black college with a finance program, not a business administration, finance, that was close enough to home, where if something happened, somebody could get to me in far enough away that nobody would be bothering me all the time.
Yeah, right.
And Alabama State, financially, was the best decision for me. So I came in June of 21 and I took a tour, and I didn't get the home feel.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, this is a college. I don't have anywhere to go. It's June. I start classes in August. What am I going to do? So I said, I'll just come. But one thing about Alabama State, it's small enough to know you and big enough to grow you.
Yeah.
And throughout my time at Alabama State, I have seen my matriculation just beyond what I ever thought it could be, simply because of what Alabama State is. And then when you think about the rich history and legacy of Alabama State, I didn't know all of this before I came here.
Yeah.
I'm still learning as I go, but to know that I'm walking in, I stayed in Joanne Robinson this summer with the Summer Bridge program. Dr. King stayed in that building.
Yeah, he did.
You can go into Council Hall
Yep.
where Joanne Robinson printed the leaflets for the
in the
Montgomery
basement.
bus boycott.
Yep.
That's what Alabama State is. It truly is where history is made.
Yeah, it is. We are history makers every day of the
Absolutely.
week. Again, I'm very proud of this university and very proud to be a part of this family. And I remember being a freshman in a communications class for Dr. Carlos Morrison, and he was telling us, I remember his first week of school, and he said, "You're here now, and if you don't decide who you are, when you get out there, they're going to tell you who you're going to be." And so, yeah, I credit this university for helping to cultivate who I am today. So shout out to BAMA State.
Absolutely.
Shout out to BAMA State.
Okay, so shifting from the college experience, can you tell me how your advocacy work started?
Yep, right here at Alabama State University. I always say that because I'm from Montgomery, organizing is in me, right? You learn how to knock doors, you learn how to make phone calls, you go to the polls. That is a part of your life, right? It's, you know how people say that you don't talk about money, politics, and religion? No, in Montgomery, we talk about politics. We talk about money, we talk about religion. And so outside of the fact that I grew up just like going to the polls with my parents, doing things like youth and government in middle school. I remember the YMCA had a program where they would come get us a couple days a week. We'd go to the magistrate's office, we go to the legislator, we go write mock Senate bills and all those things. So there were a lot of moments in my life that kind of brought me to the point of being an organizer, but I didn't realize that it was a career and that I could do well and that I could take care of myself and, you know, really build something until I came to Alabama State. And there was a state Senate race happening at the time. And that was the first time I had ever been paid decent money and decent, you know, $1,000 as a college student, right? To work on a campaign. Knocking doors, making phone calls, organizing volunteers. And the way my brain has always worked has also been money. You've got a finance background, and I'm thinking like, well,
Money talks.
Money talks. If you pay me $1,000, somebody is getting $10,000 to be here, right? And so I very quickly figured out who those people were. And over the years, just really learning, my grandfather would always say, remain humble, remain teachable, and remain willing. And I think remaining teachable kind of took me all the places. And so, yeah, came to BAMA State, started working on a state Senate race. And since then, I've been all across the country organizing, building campaigns for nonprofits, political candidates, small businesses. Yeah.
And all of this started because you made a decision to come to Alabama State.
All of this started because I made a decision to come to the illustrious Alabama State University.
Okay, just want to make sure
Yeah,
that
just
was
want to put
highlighted.
that out there.
Yes. I think I'll answer the same question. My work really got started because I was always politically aware of what was going on. But based off of where I live, I did not have an organization or an outlet to do the type of things that I wanted to do. So when I came to Alabama State University, an opportunity presented itself for me to join the NAACP. And I took it and ran with it. And not to be boastful, but when I do things, I do them pretty well. And I take it always beyond what I do. So we were just recognized on the local and state level. But when I came into it, thankfully to our National Youth and College staff, shout out to Derek, Jamil, Amari Wisdom, they gave me an opportunity and outlet to do things on a national level that I've never done before. They gave me resources to make sure that I was mobilizing, keeping people engaged. I've been flown out to trainings and all different types of summer schools and those things to make sure that I'm being strategic with what I'm doing at Alabama State University.
Yeah.
So the organization really gave me the platform that I needed to showcase the potential that I already had.
Yeah, absolutely. I heard you talk about like the strategy that you were provided, like with being a part of all of these trainings and these teachings. How do you think you've used that strategy, or how do you think that strategy has benefited you in your organizing work? And like more specifically, I'm interested to hear like, as you've developed your organizing style, like what does that look like, and how have you shown up in the organizing space to like really be sure that voters, Black and brown and in between, understand the urgency of now?
Yeah. I've made civic engagement relatable. It's not just talking. I can't talk to you about what we're sitting in now, the civil rights movement of 1965. It's wonderful to talk about because we have to know where we've come from to where we are, but also we have to talk about present day issues in this social climate. So what I like to do is I make it relatable to you. Having a conversation with a person to figure out exactly what are their interests. Yes, so I've found a way to make civic engagement relatable to people, making sure that we're having conversations and actually figuring out what you as a voter need. So that also goes into our education aspect. Well, let me provide you with some educational resources. Let me stop the misinformation that's already in your head about certain things, because what you're saying is absolutely not true. And if you simply just do a Google search or go on a candidate's website, you can see all their platforms and what they stand for. And it's not just registration, education.
Come on.
GOTV.
Get there.
That's the most important thing that we can talk about, because we spend a lot of time on registration. Okay. 80% of people are registered to vote in the state.
Actually, the statistic is 96 now.
Oh, we've gone up.
96% of eligible voters in the state are registered to vote.
But what's our turnout? In any primary election, we'll see anywhere from 37 to 40%. And in a general, it's somewhere between 60, and on a high year, depending on who's on the ballot, we'll get up to 70. That's crazy. Crazy. It's sorry.
It was real sorry.
Call it what it is.
Sorry and lazy, okay?
But I find it because we try to go when it's election time.
Yeah.
So when it's election time, that's when we see all of our candidates. They're coming to our churches, they're coming to our community events. But when it's midterm time, are you just here to visit students?
Yeah. So,
or are you only here when it's time for us to check your name on a ballot? And I've checked some candidates about it. They say, oh, I'm here all the time.
So as we talk about how our communities only show up at the ballot when it's for a candidate that they care about and not for issues that they care about, how do we like break the mold of keeping, or how do we break the mold of making it the responsibility of the candidate to organize our communities, right? We just talked about the boycott of 1965, Voting Rights Act of 1965, and all of that. And obviously that was legacy work. That was groundwork that needed to be done in order for us to do the work that we're doing now. That work needed to be done in order for us to have Congressional District 2 right now, right? And even though we are not done with Congressional District 2, and for those that don't know that are watching this, Congressional District 2 is a Supreme Court case, well, not the Congressional District. The state is broken up into 7 congressional districts, and up until a few months ago, the state never had an additional minority opportunity district. For a very long time, Congresswoman Terry Sewell was our only minority person of color in Congress.
Correct.
And so the Supreme Court case, Milligan versus Allen, Shout out to Evan Milligan, Kadita Stone, Shalita Dowdy, and so many other.
Alabama NAACP was
Alabama
a plaintiff on the case.
Yeah, okay, period. And so shout out to all of the plaintiffs and the folks who done that great work. I'm grateful to have been a part of that work. But now we have this second congressional district, kind of, because it's still in litigation. I won't talk much about that at all. But now we have the second congressional district, and it's not the responsibility of the candidates to organize our communities, right? It's not the responsibility of these people. Yes, they should engage us and we should talk to them, but past that, right? When they get in office, when we elect whoever, whose responsibility is it to organize us then? And I think that earlier we were talking about the difference between organizers and mobilizers, right? And so as we talk about how we organize our communities and who is organizing our communities, I think it's important for us to really highlight where that gap is, right? Why is it the responsibility of the candidate to come and constantly engage us when there are real issues that we need to go to them about? We hired them. They work for us.
Yes. Oftentimes we tell people we voted you in, and the same way we got you in is the same way we can get you out.
Yeah.
So some of these people, it's time for us to vote them out.
Yeah.
It's retirement time. I've
done a lot of partisan and nonpartisan work. And the work that I've done with candidates specifically, we always say that we're building a plane as we fly it, right? And what that means is when I'm working for a candidate and when candidates are on the ground, organizing, knocking doors, making phone calls, talking to constituents, they are trying to get somewhere while also building, right? While also building the connections, whether that's community or whether that's at the state level or at the federal level. And all of the nuances that play a role in making that happen, I think sometimes don't allow the candidate to really be able to dive into all of the issues that are happening to our communities. And I believe that it is their responsibility, right, to make the time to dive into those issues and to build apparatuses so that they build the data and the contacts and the information, right? The only way that, again, I believe that we really make a change in our community is if we build community. Right? If I don't know you and you don't know them, then how will we ever be able to come to a common goal? And so for me, I think that the biggest thing is being able to be sure that elected officials have the support that they need too. Right? We got to show up for them. We got to go to their office. We got to say, hey, what phone calls do I need to make? Right, so again, I don't think that it is just the responsibility of the candidate to organize us, but it's our responsibility as a community to organize each other. Right. Yeah.
And to add to that a little bit, because I don't work on any type of political campaigns, all the work I do is nonpartisan. Yeah. But I'm not blind. I have relationships with certain candidates, and we talk about certain elected officials. Let me go back. I don't have relationships with candidates. I have relationships with certain elected officials, and we talk about things that really do affect the community. And how can I help them with that? What are they looking for from me? But what I see a lot of is the community. We don't hold our elected officials accountable. In large numbers, we're not showing up to the House, we're not showing up to the Senate, we're not showing up to city council meetings the way we should if we really want to see a change. Now, if the same 5, 6, 7 people are in there every week, they're gonna get tired of that. But I have a motto: when young people stand up, the world takes notice. I really want to charge young people to actually show up in their communities, especially when you're going to college, because you spend 10 months out of the year here. You're not going home worrying about what's going on there. You're worried about that test that's next week. So focus on the communities that we're in and what we can do to make sure that it's better for when we leave.
Yeah, I love that. So as you mentioned, your work is nonpartisan, and so is mine. Shouts out to the ACLU of Alabama, where I serve as the voting rights coordinator and also the campaign manager for our Project MOVE initiative. MOVE stands for Making Our Voices Echo. And so through our work, again, we are going statewide, talking to folks, making phone calls, knocking doors.
I work with MOVE. I was on the phone.
You were on the phones for MOVE. Thank you. where we made thousands of calls to voters across the state, right? And when we were making phone calls for Project Move, it was, what issue is impacting you the most?
That's right.
You know? Have you talked to an elected official about this issue? If so, what elected official have you talked to? And what I see is that more often than not, our issues are misplaced, right? We're going to city council to talk about something that we need to go talk to our state legislator about, right?
Talk about it.
And so for me, I'm just wondering, like, while you're still on campus, right? You're here, you're deep rooted in campus. What disconnect, and like, why is there such a disconnect between what the issues are and who we're actually talking to about those issues? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think it's simple civics. Knowing the executive, legislative, and judicial branch of government, knowing the difference between federal and state, knowing the difference between municipal, county. People don't understand who you're supposed to go to. But is it because they don't understand, or is it because it's not being taught?
Yeah.
You can't fault people for not knowing certain things, but at a certain point in life, meaning when you're over the age of 18 and your voting age, you need to pick up a book, pick up a telephone sometimes, and make sure that you're educated. But also, we as organizers and mobilizers, when we're going into these communities, we can't just talk. We have to leave people with educational resources that they can go back and look on when we leave. If you don't have education, you don't have anything.
We were just talking about Project Move, making our voices echo. And again, I'm just so proud of the work that we're doing at the ACLU through this initiative. And once again, thank you so much for volunteering with us and being a part of that.
Well, thank you.
What was like one of the biggest issues that you heard while talking to people on the phone? Like, while you were asking people what issue impacts you the most, what did you hear? Like, what was the general consensus?
Based off of the callers who actually answered the phone.
Yeah.
The answer that they gave me was a lot of misinformation that had been given to them. They were telling me, based off of the people that I talked to, they were generally older Americans who were telling me things that I know simply are not true and can be fact checked. Oh, well, this is going on with the economy and this and this and this. And I'm like, you do know the economy is the way it is based off of
who we elected.
Based off of who you voted.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But we digress.
I digress.
Yeah.
Nonpartisan.
Nonpartisan.
Simple things that could be checked because of education.
Yeah.
You're telling me something that I know is not true, but it resonates with you. So based off of this telephone conversation, not how can I change your mind, but how can I educate you on what's simply the truth and to still make sure that your concern is met.
Yeah.
And then I followed up with the question, well, have you talked to your elected official about this, and who have you talked to? No. Well, if you don't tell somebody your problem, how do you expect them to fix it?
How would they know? Yeah, no, for sure. I'm interested to see that full like data once we pull it. But I'm also interested to hear, like, with you being on phones, talking to voters, doing the work that you do, what other initiatives have you been a part of to help kind of bridge that gap?
Well, most of the work I do is here at Alabama State University, but I also work on the state level as well. So we're actually getting ready to kick something off beginning this week. It's called the Alabama NAACP Youth and College Division Campus Connections Tour. We'll be going to about 10 college campuses across the state of Alabama doing civic engagement work, boots on the ground. I mean, we've got giveaways, educational resources. We've got partners on each stop, just making sure that people are staying engaged because I think we lose momentum oftentimes. Okay, we have one voter registration drive. No, that's not it.
That's not it.
If they see your face one time, that's not enough. I've learned on Alabama State's campus, these people might say they sick of me, but they not. Because I'm always in their face about it. Oh, here come Mr. Voter Registration. Here, check my thing, I'm registered. Oh, what do I do about this? What do I do about that? Because I made it relatable to them and I kept doing it.
Yeah.
So that's what we're launching across the state, teaching these different types of trainings at schools like Miles College, Talladega, Alabama A&M, a variety of others. but making sure that what we do here that we found to be effective according to our data, because if you don't have data, you don't have anything, quantifiable data. We're going to do it across the state.
Yeah, I love that. I'm very excited to see y'all do that. We are also, ACLU is also on an HBCU tour. Next week we'll be in Huntsville, A&M for their homecoming. So I'm sure we'll bump into y'all on the ground at some point. Social media. Yeah, so I think one of the biggest things that has helped kind of propel our HBCU outreach has been our connection to the students via social media. But in the last primary election, and I do not believe that it was an accident. However, this is the view of Kenya, not anyone that I have, will, or currently work for. Okay. Social media just went blank on election day, right? Crashed. Social media crashed on election day. You couldn't make any posts. You couldn't open your feed. You couldn't refresh your feed. And so as we talk about outreach, as we talk about turnout, we know that social media plays a huge role in our everyday lives. Where do you think the intersection of social media, voting, and like our generation helps us kind of get the message out? And how do we be sure that we are using social media effectively and holding the platforms accountable for not muting us?
Yeah, social media is probably one of the biggest news sources for young millennials and Gen Z. That's what we're on most of the day. Most of us aren't turning on CNN or another news network unless you're a little engaged. But when it comes to social media, you have to use it to your advantage to put out the message that you want. And then it's always a competition of whose message is better, whose looks better, what's catchier. It doesn't even always have to be right, because as we've seen on social media, you can talk about eating cats and dogs, and that gets a lot of clicks. Talking about what's on social media, I didn't name a name. So you have to make sure that when you're on social media that you're fact checking this. Yeah. Okay, the Shade Room is not a news source.
Right.
It's not a news source.
Hey, if Shade Room sees this, please hire me as your political correspondent so that I can give y'all all the facts, okay?
Yeah.
Because the facts don't be facts. Yeah. It be fake news.
Absolutely. Now, you can feature me if you like, but it's not a news source. Let's not open our phones to see what's going on with this election on the Shade Room.
Yeah.
Open a newspaper sometimes.
Yeah, for sure.
Social media can be used to your advantage. It's great to put out messaging. It's great to educate people. But that shouldn't be the only thing that we go to, and that shouldn't be the last stop that we make. Yeah,
and that's exactly like the point I'm making about being sure that we don't allow social media and social media platforms to mute us, right? Mm-hmm. Because it's so easy for misinformation to be distributed on a wide platform, right? And nobody question it, nobody stop it, nobody flag it. You know, there are features on our apps where you can report something. Right. You can report that as fake news, right? But we don't use our social media to do those things. And so I believe that social media has some pros and some cons in relation to the work that we do and how we show up in community. But I also believe that as organizers and as mobilizers, and again, we talked about the difference between those earlier, we have to use social media in order for us to get our voice out, make our voices heard, and be sure that we're connecting to the people that we need to connect with, because that's where they are, right? That's where they live. Everybody lives on social media.
Well, Kenya, as we come to our close, and first of all, I want to thank you for sitting down with me, coming back home to the Alabama State University to have this conversation. But I want to get into a little bit more of the specifics. Mm-hmm. We are, as we sit here, 28 days out.
28 days away. Oh my gosh. Crazy work.
Crazy. We're 28 days out. I know people are tired, stressed out, but we just cannot give up. So tell me specifically, to the people who are watching, to myself, what do we do? What can we do?
Yeah. So I think the easy answer is go vote. We can go vote, right? That's the most basic thing that you can do to make an impact, not just on November 5th, but for literally the rest of our lives. I hate to make that sound like so grand and like dramatic, but it truly is going to change the course of our lives if we don't show up at the polls. I think the other thing that we can do is be sure that we engage somebody else. A couple of weeks ago on National Voter Registration Day, I called all my cousins. I'm the oldest of 18 cousins. And all of them know that Kenya does voting. Everybody knows what I do, the work that I do. And I called every last one of them. Are you registered to vote? Who are you voting for? You know, that was in my own personal capacity.
Yeah.
I don't ask that when I'm at work, right? But I can ask my cousins, who are you voting for? Have you made a decision? Do you have a plan to vote? Do you know how you're going to get there? What time are you going to go to the polls? You know you have to go to work that day? Are you going to go first thing in the morning when the polls open? Or are you going to wait until after you get off work? Or are you going to go on your lunch break? Right? Those are the questions that we need to be calling our neighbors, our churches, our friends, our family, and being sure that everybody has a plan, everybody knows what they're doing. It's just like planning a good party, right? Who's gonna bring the chips? Who's gonna bring the drinks? Who's gonna does everybody know what we're doing here? Does everybody know what role we're playing? And so I just wanna encourage folks to make sure they not only get themselves to the polls, but that they engage somebody else and make sure someone else gets there. Yeah, what about you?
I always have the same key points. One, get off the phone and get in the field.
Period.
Voting is simply not enough. You have to make sure that your community is engaged as well. You need to, like you said, call your cousins. Make sure that everybody that you hang around with is registered to vote. My friends know, if you're not politically aware, stay from around me till after election day. Don't talk to me. You're hindering me right now. Get away from me.
Yeah.
I won't be bothered. But making sure that everybody in your community is registered. Get off the phone. Don't just post pictures saying, oh, I'm at the polls. That's cute.
But get in the field.
But what else are you doing? Are you registering somebody else? Are you helping somebody else? Are you giving out information? The second point is making sure that people understand democracy is on the ballot.
Yeah.
And what that truly means. Because like you said, this election will change the outcome of this country for years to come. The next person that we elect as president possibly has 2 to 3 Supreme Court picks.
Yeah.
These are lifetime appointments.
Yeah.
People have to understand the severity of what's going on. We've got gubernatorial seats, Senate seats, House seats, city races, down ballot.
Yeah.
All of those affect you. And remember that the down ballot affects you first. The president of the United States is not to blame for everything that's wrong in your life.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need to call the local area code.
Yep.
And tell them what they need to do.
Yep.
And then my third and final point is, when young people stand up, the world takes notice. That's my mantra that I live by, because I want young people to understand the power that they truly possess. And also to the older community to let them know that we're not trying to take away from their light. We're just trying to put our torch on yours so that both of our lights can shine.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful that we got an opportunity to have this conversation. And I look forward to many more.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Won't be the last.
Thanks for listening. We are grateful to today's fantastic guests, Kenya Shavers and Tyrin Moorer, 2 Gen Z voices that are champions for their generation to become civically involved. A special shout out to the National Park Service, who hosted us at the Interpretive Center at Alabama State University in Montgomery. And a big thank you to Dr. Melinda Swopes of Alabama State University for coordination and logistical support. We are most grateful to the Alabama Alliance for sponsoring our final 2 episodes of this 2024 season. Share the Mic was recorded by our AV maestro, Ronnie Gatry, who also provided voiceover and editing alongside Libby Lassiter. Share the Mic was created and produced by Libby Lassiter. Our podcast is a proud production of Share the Mic LLC, a very small band of diverse friends with a passion for social justice. With just a few days left until November 5th, the time is now to join us to engage youth in voting. Subscribe to our channel, follow us on social media, share this episode with your friends, and know that your voice and vote matter.